mindfulness being that ability to keep one's attention in the present moment by staying connected to the body, the thoughts, the emotions, and the breath, by using that elusive skill of attention, which I know everybody is eager to fine-tune nowadays. Our first warm-up practice for today is our 15-second mindful smile. So per the definition, as we're smiling, we're going to be connecting with attention to the body, thoughts, emotions, and breath. So here we go. Okay, let's do another warm-up exercise. Let's do a 2-minute mindful breathing practice. So starting with a mindful posture, which means a comfortable posture, lining up the head, the neck, and the spine, and having awareness of that posture. And then with the mindful breath, we start by breathing in and out through the nose. And we also breathe diaphragmatically, meaning that on the in-breath, the lower abdomen inflates. Breathing in and then slight pause. And then as we're breathing out, the lower abdomen deflates, the lower abdomen being that area below the belly button. So mindfully breathing in this way, fully experiencing each cycle of breath, the in-breath and the out-breath. Staying with the breath. Breathing. Remembering to notice when the attention wanders. Very important part of the practice. So it's twofold. Number one, where does it wander to? Maybe it wanders to some part of the body or an emotion or a thought. Part two is bringing the attention back. So that repetition of coming and going is what fine-tunes our mindfulness practice. Staying with the breath. And simply breathing naturally. No need to change anything. However your breath is in this moment, that's what we'll stay with. And staying with this very simple practice And always remembering that simple is most effective. Breathing is one of those activities that we can either do consciously or unconsciously. Staying with the breath, fully attentive to the experience of breathing. And if it's helpful, every once in a while, silently saying to yourself, breathing. Some people find that helpful. In the end, using your own creativity and imagination to create your own practice so that it suits you, what works best for you. Okay, so now moving on to our practice for today. I think for today's practice, we're going to use the sense of sight. I like to use practices that involve the five senses. It's a great way to connect to the body being that doorway into the present moment experience. Sometimes I'll incorporate all five senses, such as during an eating practice. But sometimes I like to do one sense at a time, or maybe one or two, depending on how I feel. So I think for today, I'm in the mood to do a mindful seeing practice. So we're going to use the sense of sight. And it's good practice because a lot of us look without seeing because we're on automatic pilot. So by doing a mindful seeing practice, we're going to come out of automatic pilot where we're actually seeing what we're looking at. So being completely present, using our ability to pay attention as we're seeing different things. So let's start by looking around the room and looking at different objects in the room. If you're in a room with windows, maybe looking at the windows, looking to see what's outside of the windows, and then also scanning the rest of the room. Maybe there's a picture up on the wall where you are. And so looking at that picture, perhaps with new eyes, maybe it's a picture that you don't really, you look at it, but you don't really see it because you're not present. You're on automatic pilot. So let's make sure we're seeing this picture, actually seeing it and experiencing it through that present moment experience. This is a great exercise if you go to an art museum where you can look at the art with these new eyes, with this present moment attention, really appreciating what's being seen. And also looking around maybe for the next object of seeing, making sure that you actually see it because you're present. Getting in the habit of actually seeing things, coming out of automatic pilot and fully experiencing through that sense of sight. Really engaging that sense of sight, which so many of us don't take full advantage of. Looking up at the ceiling, noticing what's there. If you're in a room or if you're outdoors, looking at nature, looking at the trees and the sky, the plants and the flowers. Oh, we could also include ourselves. We could look at our bodies, checking out the different parts of the body, the arms and the legs and the, well, I guess it's hard to look at the head unless you've got a mirror there. Keeping that sense of sight fully engaged, fully present. Not just looking, but actually seeing. And just like with other forms of meditation, noticing when the attention wanders away from that sense of sight and bringing it right back. Fully experiencing, knowing what you're looking at. And seeing if it affects you in a particular way. How does it affect you physically? Maybe emotionally, it affects you in a certain way, or it triggers some thoughts. Maybe it's actually even affecting your breath. Sense of sight. Does anything look different now that you're actually seeing it, participating in the experience through that sense of sight? All right, let's finish up by bringing our attention to our breathing for a few moments. Breathing in and out through the nose. Okay. So Frank has a question. Frank wants to know if mindfulness can help with resilience. The short answer is yes, it can. And many studies have shown that. Resilience being that ability to stay with rapid change. So let's think about that for a moment. When we get stuck in the stress mode, it makes it very, very difficult to change smoothly. We get stuck and we become rigid. And that's every part of us, not just our ability to focus and our thoughts and our emotions, but our bodies too. They just get stuck. And it's very hard to abide change. In fact, one of the definitions of stress includes an inability to go with change. We're very, very uncomfortable with change when we're in that stress mode. But that's very interesting because the world that we live in is constant change. And so it's very important to come out of that stress mode so that we can become compatible with the nature of the life that we live, which is a life of constant change. Nowadays, it's rapid change. And so by using mindfulness to come out of the stress mode, we then are able to go moment to moment, adapting to change, which by definition is what we call resilience. Resilience is simply that ability to abide change. And so it's also the ability to make sure that we don't get stuck in the stress mode, that we don't get stuck in fight or flight. And if our autonomic nervous system, which puts us into fight or flight, is working correctly, it's also going to take us out of fight or flight when it's not necessary to be there anymore. So there you have it. Mindfulness, in many ways, makes it much easier for us to become resilient and adapt and flow with the constant change that takes place in our lives. So, Frank, I hope that was a good answer for you, that it got to the point. And so that's it for today. Until next time. Let's you know what? Before we sign off for today, let's finish with a 15-second smile, mindful smile, starting now. Okay, and now we can sign off. So until next time, be well and take care. See you again.